Hey, what's up? I'm Mark Terbolini, and in this video I'm going to be painting these garage doors. So first off, it's going to be a lot of prep. So basically what I'm starting off by doing is just kind of sweeping off all the dirt that's kind of been piled up on there. Make sure it's clean. I also have a tarp down here, so when I'm spraying, the spray is not going to go onto the cement below. Now I already sprayed this off with water with a pressure washer a couple weeks back, but I'm going to go over it actually with a sander real quick. Just a little bit of sand, just give it a little bit of, so the new paint will stick a little bit better. So I'm going to just go over this real quick with a little bit of sanding. Okay, after a quick sand, I'm going to go ahead and dust it off. Make sure the surface doesn't have any debris on it. You also want to make sure the ground is kind of clear here. You don't want to be spraying the door here and have junk at the bottom here. Going up onto the surface as you're painting it. So that's why I'm kind of sweeping the bottom there. Keep the work area clean. Okay, so at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask off things I don't want to paint. I think I've decided I'm going to paint the doors and the trim here. But the paint or the tape for the masking doesn't stick to this rock very well. So I think I'll just stick it to the wood on the face, and I'll come back and cut that in with a brush later. So I have a nice surface to stick the tape to. So I'm gonna go ahead and tape all this out and prep it, and then also put some tape around the hardware here, and then go from there. And the masking doesn't have to be perfect because, like I said, you're going to come back over it with a paintbrush and really make it perfect. So this is just to cover, the most crucial areas here. Okay. And when you're sticking tape to brick or something like this, you give it if you kind of hit it, it kind of makes an impression into the tape, and it sticks more than just a surface stick. So that's why I'm kind of hitting the tape there. It sticks a little bit better that way. Gonna grab a ladder for this top part. And I'm just going to be spraying the face of this. I'm not too worried about the top because you can't really see it. It is painted the base color, so we're good there. But I just want to make sure everything's protected and the face gets painted here. So I may spray it anyways just to be thorough, but no one's going to really see it anyways. When you're on a ladder and you're doing this and you can't go any further, what you do is you just pull out a long section, make sure that's stuck on really well, and then just move down. You'll make sure you mask the bottom down here too. So make sure it's clean so the tape will stick. And you want to go actually under the garage with this, under the garage door. So I would just do this whole section just to be thorough. Another thing you want to keep in mind is you can put this over the top like that, but it's not going to work quite as well. It can lift up a little bit. The garage door is going to be on top of it, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. But a lot of the time you can stick the tarp under the paper and tape it on there, and then that works really well. Just like that. And do the same to this side. Okay, one more thing I want to mention. It's kind of not great to paint these things like the rubber thing on the bottom here. So it's best to clean it off and put a strip of paint on there to keep it black, keep it nice. So I'd recommend doing that. If it's already painted, just paint it. But it is not, has a little bit of overspray on it, but it has not been painted. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover it. Just basically wrap it underneath like that. Make sure it's on there. And if there's any areas you missed, just go back over it again. So this is right in front here, so I'm going to go ahead and tape this up. These are kind of tricky because there's not a lot of surface area for tape to stick to, so you just basically do your best, wrap it around. You might get a little bit of overspray on it if the tape comes loose. You know, just do your best and stick it on there as firmly as possible. You can also remove the hardware, which is a consideration because there's some paint right there you could see. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Okay. So make a judgment call on what to mask and what to remove. This was pretty simple to remove. It's just screwed on there. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove it. I'll make sure that's nice and clean as well. It's pretty dirty. Could even do it like a wet rag. Wipe it off. Yeah. So the wet rag was the right choice. That was definitely some caked on mud. You do not want to paint over that. All right, so I clean that off. That's good to go. Let's lower this down a little bit more. So these ones I am not going to remove. I'm not going to bother. So I'm going to go ahead and tape these guys up as best I can. You can take your putty knife and also kind of like make sure it's off the surface if you got it on there at all. I think that'll work okay. And these guys, this does not have like a lip to tape around. So basically you just kind of go on the surface and you follow it with the tape. Cool. Okay, we're ready to set up the sprayer. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started doing that. Before you do any painting, make sure to give it a good shake or a stir if you have a stir stick. This does separate after even just a few days. Okay, so the sprayer is ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and lower the garage door. You can see there's like space on the side here behind this deal. It's gonna be a little bit tough to get to. You can see their previous job back here. That's still always kind of difficult to get. So what I'm gonna do is when I spray, I'm gonna get the edges first. I'm gonna push against the up here and get that edge, get that, and basically just push as I go along and get all that. And I'm gonna do the same for these sides here. I might even try and pull this aside a little bit to try and get in there. But it's just the way it is, because this, you're not gonna take this rubber thing off and then, I mean, you could, but it's just gonna be, you know, more work. So do your best to get in there, but it's not the end of the world. Just do your best, and then go from there. So I'm just gonna kind of like push, or maybe pull this to the side a little bit. I'll probably end up just pushing and kind of just get it in there. Just do your best. So I'm gonna go ahead and start going. I'm using a 311 tip. I was using a 515 for the body. That just puts a lot of more material on the surface. This is going to be a little bit less. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit more manageable. So that's what I'm using. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Okay. Do the same over here. Okay. So got all the edges done. I'm gonna go ahead and do this trim real quick. Also, when you're spraying, make sure you're moving the gun before you pull the trigger, because if you just hold it there and pull the trigger, you're going to get a buildup of paint right where you're aiming. So basically just move the gun constantly, especially when you're about to pull the trigger, and make sure you're moving. And basically I'm just going to go back and forth and do this whole thing now. So here we go. And as you can see, basically I do one pass and then I go over it. It's like 50-50. So I'm kind of going back over this section again. So make sure to overlap so you don't have any areas that you kind of go too light on. that's all there is to it. Now, this is drying, and metal has a tendency to drip because it is not soaking in as much as more drying on the surface. So I would suggest that you go ahead and open the garage door and let it dry up top. So you can see the creases and stuff. That's not great. I might go back over that later and fix those areas so you don't see it as much. But you can leave it as is for now. Now you can leave the masking on for a little while, but if you leave it on for too long, the paint will dry, and then you pull it off, and it can actually have a tendency sometimes to peel the paint off of the surface that you're trying to paint. So if you pull it off sooner, it's still wet and hasn't dried and gotten that film that like hardened yet. So the sooner you pull it off, as long as you're careful, you know, you should be okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling this off. So I'm actually gonna bring this down real quick because like I mentioned, if you leave it on there too long, it can peel the paint off. So I'm gonna bring it down a little bit. Stop it right there. I'm going to peel this stuff off. This is where it's most crucial because I've seen it happen here a lot of times. So this is where you definitely want to pull it off sooner rather than later because it will peel, and I have seen it do it plenty of times. So it looks good. Just be careful while you're doing it. Make sure you don't hit the surface. There we go. So it's not perfect. I did the best I could. I could take like a small fine brush and just get those edges if I want to a little bit later.